Important disclaimer and reminder for all traders and investors, this webinar is for educational purposes only and not a recommendation to buy or sell any particular financial instrument. Equities, futures, options, and currency trading have large potential rewards, but also large potential risks. You must be aware of those risks and be willing to accept them in order to invest in the futures and options markets. Absolutely do not trade with money you can't afford to lose. This website is neither a solicitation nor an offer to buy or sell equities, futures, or options. No representation is being made that any account will or is likely to achieve profits or losses similar to those discussed on this channel. Past performance of any trading system or methodology is not necessarily indicative of future results. Absolutely consult your registered financial advisor and your risk trading plan before ever investing or trading any financial instrument. So, the gist of today is, as long as we hold this 30-32, right, I am looking for excuses or reasons to be able to get long. Unfortunately, we're already up at 37. Additionally, that means we're looking for potential open drive higher. I agree, John, but since I record it, I have to show that I've read it every morning. So I have to record myself reading it every morning. At any rate, I'm with you. Open drive higher, right? In which case, that sets up zero tick if we open it with a plus 800 or greater tick. First zero tick, 2 point stop, 2 point initial target, right? That's the setup when we get 2 zero tick on the chart, right? There's really not much more else to discuss other than that. Once we get the zero tick, we're looking for the patterns we're looking for. If we open drive higher, okay, as tick comes in, we want to see some variation of either price moving up or price moving sideways as tick comes towards zero. Right? First zero tick, enter at zero tick, stop 2 points below. The trade usually works within 10 minutes. Usually. Doesn't mean that it has to, right? Additionally, if we go into trend day up, usually negative 600 ticks will produce responsive buys. It's important to note that really after the first hour, if we get to a 50-60 retrace, we are no longer in trend up, right? Come up and we come back to the 50-60 and we hit that, we are most likely to go into balance or failed range extension and roll to the downside. So I'm not really looking for a downside move. I'm not really looking to short. Once we get up 20-25, I'll be looking for tick divergence as areas to exit. But clearly we're strong out of the gate. No one appears to care about the British elections, or at least there's no negative impact from the British elections. And I just want to take a quick look at the volume profile as well. It represents much the same thing that we just showed from the TPO, but it is measured in a different fashion. You can see we have 4 days of consolidation. Well, actually, I call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're opening at the very top of that consolidation. You want to know what that looks similar to? It looks similar to these 4 days right here. See how value moved lower? We opened above value, right? So if you want to go look at that date to see how that day went, okay, that was on the 31st of last month. So the day we opened above was on the 1st of this month, and this looks very, very similar. Now, it doesn't have to follow that pattern, but I know unless I get below this HVN, which is sitting right here in yesterday's close, again, 24.30, as I get below and hold below, that my short has very little odds of being very highly effective. You could always try to short the high and push back towards the 30, but that doesn't make any sense to me from a risk-reward standpoint. And so, again, we have options. If we don't get a pull down in the morning, zero tick, then we're looking for negative 600 to 800 ticks for entry along the path. We know after the first hour, if we actually get a 50-60 back after the break of IB high, right, that the odds of trend day up are reduced significantly. Okay, doesn't mean it can't happen, just means it's reduced. Remember, we're still in contract rollover, and we're on the U contract, okay? So on TradeStation, that would be ESU 17. On S5, that's ESU 7. Perfect. Just a second. Okay, there we are. Does anyone have any questions over my trade plan? I'll try to be as thorough as I can. I don't have Globex high in yet, 24.35.75. Oh, is that right? I apologize. I was looking at the wrong contract, guys. Man, forgive me. We're not opening as high as I thought we were. Is my 24. Why does that show 24.37 on the... Oh, that's why. It was yesterday's high. $24.35.75. I apologize. We're not quite above yesterday's high. Same rule, but 24.32, 24.30 is what we're looking. Globex low came in at... We are opening at the top of the range. I just got thrown by the changing contract, 24.23. Oh, that came in perfect. Look at that. Yeah, got it. Thank you, Ron. 24.25. I showed 24.23 on the U contract, Ron. Are you looking at the? You must be on September, June, not September, because it's 2.25 difference in points. I'm on the U contract this morning. Can you verify for me, please? Insert symbol tick. So this was Thursday's volume point of control. You can see that we opened right above that. Now I'm switching over to ESU17.D. Got it. Okay, I'm still going to go with the 24.23 as the low, as the Globex low. You can note in Globex session, so that was after between that 3:15 and 5 p.m. period, right? Got it. So Ron's pointing out that the 23 low came in at after the 3:15 close, but before Asia opened. I'm going to still count that as Globex low, but you may want to also know that 25 was the, which was Thursday's low, came in as the actual Globex session Asia to U.S. Open low. So again, potential open drive higher. Tick's only 508, but so keep that in mind. That's not that's not the 1,000 tick that we're looking for out of the gate, right? I want to repeat that. That's not the 1,000 tick we were looking for out of the gate that usually accompanies an open drive higher. There's 0 tick. It's negative 600. Oh, thank you. The volume point of control, guys, sorry, contract rollover, 24.30.75 for the U contract. Wow, 2 mistakes one morning. There you go. So again, that is not usually what we get for open drive higher. Okay, keep that in mind. The less than 1,000 tick off the open, right? So the 0 tick trade needs to wait to actually show an open drive higher at this point for me to take that. There's no need to rush on it. And remember, we still have the options, the futures rollover on NQ. I'm going to throw NQ up here on the right so we can keep an eye on it. That's weird. You agree with me now on Globex low? Okay, cool. So again, NQ gapped, and then it's doing the same business that it did yesterday with the pull down. And I think we have time to make a decision at this point. We don't have to rush. I didn't look up Econ this morning, but I will. $10 a.m. Final wholesale inventories. That's it. Not a lot going on. And Q, again, same crazy business we're having from the prior session. Again, remember, we're still splitting volume between two contracts, so as you saw yesterday, crazy things can happen in the first hour and in the last hour. And 30.32 is our key. That's where I'm hoping to get to for a long. And if that first 5-minute low isn't penetrated, we'll probably end up pushing through here anyways. This is 0 tick, but again, we didn't open with a positive 800 tick, so it's not a traditional open drive higher. We don't have gap fill. We don't have half gap either. So it's just not fitting the profile that it's hit in the past. Doesn't mean it can't work, and obviously I'm not bearish. Ralph had some information. 24.23 is Globex opening bar low, and 24.2250 is ESU 17 mid for June. 24.2250, I want to repeat that, is mid for June. And I did not get the opening print. Let me get that up. It is 24.34 1/4 is the open print, which we just backside tested. I did move this down to 24.3075. The volume point of control, Thursday's volume point of control on the U contract is down here in the white zone. Brian. Okay, 24.34 1/4 is the open print. That's what we're backside testing again, right? That needs to hold, obviously, for trend up. And then I'm not surprised that we have weird PA on the open of the futures, futures rollover, but I would expect us to push through to 24.3750 and then higher from there. Is my general expectation. I just don't, unless your trade is to take the backside test, right? We don't have open drive higher, but we also don't have half gap or gap fill, showing buyers are in control. And I am generally, as I've noted, bullish, actually, especially with 4 days of consolidation. It's going to have to get to that 30 to 32 to change my mind on that. And if we were weak, we would have come right into that 32, 30. Even then, we would have had to punch through it. So and keep pushing now. Back above yesterday's high. Does anyone have a counter to my long side argument? Other than we're testing the all-time high and people will try for a double top. I understand that, but Bill or Ron or is anyone reading me as too I would like a pullback to 32.30 for a long. I don't know if I'll get it. But again, we're getting zero tick and ES pushing, so and again, we don't have a setup other than you just take that opening backside print. That's it. There's no, there literally it was a 1.5 point rotation down. Volume should come on by the end of the mid-morning. Should be all on the U contract. Shorted breach above Thursday's high, 37.50 is the all-time high. You may be trying to reject. Again, you're going to have the weakest hands just look at, oh, it's the all-time high, I'm going to short it kind of deal, right? So that's not uncommon, but there's no volume there. There's nothing there to work off of. So it could work. It's not that it can't. It's just you have nothing to protect you there on the short side. You don't have anyone else who's trapped at that point, right? So initial rejection, then we get above, and then the weak hands who shorted there have to come back in. I think it's illogical to short without a volume. Something to help you volume-wise there. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's my 2 cents. Again, your first bull bear line is this 34 1/4. If we get into the white zone, it's critical that we get back above this area. I can't stress that enough. And obviously the 35.75 Globex high, if we don't get below that, right, we just hold this area. Obviously push-ups very likely. I'm working hard to set up where I think the support will be and what the scenario will be for the day. So for those traders who want to be more aggressive early in the morning, they can. Right? This is about as aggressive as I was willing to be this morning. So my next setups are break of IB high, first 50-60 back. That has to occur in the morning, not late in the day. Okay, but before 11. And then negative 600 ticks as we continue along the path, assuming we're not doing lower lows or breaking swing lows. So we're backside testing Globex low now. We're a little bit below Globex low. And we have the first negative ticks of the day. So understand the people who are selling here are just selling because this is a double top all-time high. And that's what they're trying to work off of. And that's fine. If that's what they want to stake their bet or their reputation on, it's not for me. And you can see people stepping in at 35.75 to support the Globex high backside test, right? Again, if we get a totally random move where you just see a sudden sweep one way or the other, it's futures rollover contract time-wise, and you got to know that that's the risk of trading today, particularly in the last hour. It can be vicious. If you want, again, I posted that NQ chart as an example. So you know we can't short it here, so what's going to happen as soon as we get above here? They're all going to cover, right? And the way you want to picture this is imagine you just shorted here, right? You're like, I'm shorting the all-time high. How do you feel right about now? One tick from a new high, right? The longer we sit up here, the more nervous you're going to get and the more willing you're going to be to short. There's very few people that are going to be confident shorting at an all-time high, right? They're going to try. That's what they're going to do. And then they go, uh-oh. And then think of all the people who FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, are going to come in at above a new all-time high, right? Bitcoin's a great example of that. So again, they're rejecting the 37.50. Only 75 contracts went off there. Five minutes till the top of the hour. Here comes the uh-oh. Oh, that's a new high print. Man, that sucks. It would have been nice to get a backside test at 32. Okay, so did everyone see how that, so even if we don't agree, John, but agree with, John said NQ's on a different page than ES, and I agree. But it's hard for ES to advance when NQ's falling into the sinker hole, right? And vice versa, right? So I want to point out to everyone, right? These days can be frustrating as a day trader, right? So first of all, number one mistake that did not occur. We did not attempt to fade because we knew buyers were in control about 30-32. Okay, that's your edge. Okay, because our job is, I want to go slow and I tend to get intense when I do this, so I'm working on slowing down my speech. When we're day traders, right? So we count on a contra move to make money. So identifying quickly where the buyers are in control and where sellers are in control is important. Weak hands shorted this 45.73, then they came again at all-time highs. Those guys are having to cover now, right? If you did not short, this is anywhere from 5 points you are not having to make up in your P&L. Our strategy, my strategy, for the zero tick trade calls for a greater than 800 tick open, right? And then the first zero tick. I pointed out that we got the zero tick without really coming in at all, but it didn't fit it exactly. Frustrating, but not the end of the world. Next, we identified where weak hands, because that's critical for your ability to trade, where the weak hands coming in, where the strong hands. Weak hands will look at Globex high, Thursday's high, and all-time high, and say short it just for the sake of shorting it, right? So if you're not shorting any of those areas, you're not any of those guys that are trying to have to cover, pulling your hair out, going, oh my gosh, how can this keep happening to me, right? Now, you can be on the flip side of that coin and go, well, why didn't I get long 34.25? I've been pointing out that the backside test of the long side, both in NQ and ES, on that opening print, has very high odds of working the first backside test that it gets, and that's exactly what happened. We came into Globex high, backside tested, and pushed. I'm not of the mind to call that trade in the first 10 or 15 minutes because there's too many people that cannot handle taking a stop early in the morning, getting run over, and then continuing with their day. And my goal for the room is to end the boom-bust cycle that most traders go through and get them in consistent trades that can consistently add P&L. I can do that usually through the course of the day without having to call a trade in the first 5 minutes. As a matter of fact, statistically, my trades in the first hour had the lowest odds of working. My trades between 9:30 and 11:30 had the highest odds of working. Okay? So, it's a progression as we move through, right? As you improve your skill set and you go buyers are in control, I wasn't willing to buy here and wait till 30-32 But even if we fail in here and we come into 3032, I'm willing to buy in this area, particularly at Thursday's volume point of control, 2 ticks in front for a trade back to the upside. And I'm not willing to fade all-time high just for the sake because it's all-time high. I'm willing to follow the volume and the time path. The time is the TPO, the volume is the volume profile. I'm willing to follow those two examples and understand how the auction process works, right, to get my trades. So I hope everyone understands that. When I point out, if you're aggressive, the 0 tick, now you have to decide in your own mind, because the market's going to constantly throw variations at us, right? Otherwise, it would be just, as Brian puts it, it'd be called taking money from the market instead of trading, right? So you have to decide which variations on your theme are acceptable. You have to also decide during options, during futures contract rollover, non-farm payroll, and Fed days, whether your risk for taking a trade or not taking a trade are worth it to you. That's a good way to put it. Worth it to you. Okay? So for me, I know what I'm looking for in my own trade plan. I'm coaching the majority of you in the room at this point, and each of you are on your own pace at your own level. As you calm down and you understand how volume interacts with price and how, when tick is healthy, how it acts, right? Remember, we started off this week with almost no range, right? Monday was horrible, if I recall correctly. Seems like a year ago now, right? And we turned out to have a very good week. Don't let your mind go to despair. Don't ask, how am I ever going to make any money? Just sit back and relax. ES always works itself out where there's a rotation or a trade to take. Okay? And as you make more money and you build your trading account, maybe you will take this trade in the backside test. If you trade 10, maybe you'll take it with 5 or 4. Right? And you'll say, well, I don't have any rotation, but everything else is lining up bullish. And I know this is my key area. Right? If it won't offer me my key area, at least let me see if I can take this area for a push out. I just moved that. I can't believe I did it. Oh, what's this right here? 50. Does anyone have any questions? Because my perception is I made a goal for myself 2 weeks ago. One was to get here on time. I haven't accomplished that, but I haven't been feeling very well. The second has been to slow the pace down of how I'm talking after I got very positive feedback from not having a voice, that the slower pace helped keep people calm. So I'm working on that. And then the last piece is not jumping from market to market, staying focused on ES. And those of you who want to trade CL, I don't have any secrets. I'm happy to coach you up. If you want a coaching on it, I'll show you how to trade it. It's not an issue, but I don't want to jump back and forth so people can stay focused. So I'd appreciate the continued feedback. It would be very much appreciated, because my goal is to help you all. It's the only reason the room runs. My trading is generally fine with the room or without the room. I'm better with the room, actually, but my trading is generally good with or without the room, right? So I need the feedback so I can make the adjustments with the account. Okay, so I think it's valuable just to know, hey, we're not in a short side trade. I think it's valuable to know that we're looking for long entries. And I think it's valuable to know that even if we don't get that entry, stay calm, look for the negative 600 tick and new all-time highs. This is most likely going to get bought and pushed back up. You can ask me, Randy, and I'll look on my chart, but I don't want to bring it up on the screen. Well, what's been happening is I've been missing clear reads on ES from looking at CL. So I'm happy to look at it on my chart and communicate with you about it, but if I'm focused on looking for the ES entry, I'm going to stay focused on that and not switch off. I'll just say I have to pause until I can look at it. It's a great trade. There's nothing wrong with CL, but I have my own limitations, one of which is being ADD and dyslexic, right? So I get focused in on what I'm looking at the time, and I forget about the other things. So everyone's here for the most part for ES, so we'll focus on ES. Did anyone take the long off the 34.25? Ron, Brian, anybody? It was very aggressive, so there's nothing wrong if you didn't. It was very aggressive. It was small, long, and NQ. Got it? Okay. Thanks, Ron. I could probably work out very nicely if you can get it to hold above 59. 5,900. The critiques have been very helpful, so if anyone has an input in email form would be appreciated. So I can think of ways to make the room better. I'll do that. But me doing more doesn't make the room better in terms of looking at the market. Again, notice how the weak hands, right? Strategically, if you can think about this, where are the strong hands, where are the weak hands? Weak hands are looking at, oh, gap up, we're coming to all-time high. And this is what I find most people are doing. They're fantasizing about the giant rollover. And I know this because I used to do it and the people I talk to. They fantasize about this, right? All-time high, rejection, I'm going to nail the high. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? If you shorted 37.50 and you covered 38, who cares? 2 ticks, right? But what they do is they go, oh, it'll come, it's 10 up now. It'll come back in, right? It's gonna roll back over. Or they'll say lies to themselves. They'll go, there's no way it can keep going up, right? Or they'll say, the market can't keep going forever. It has to find a top. Or John, I don't remember. I'll go look. The Word document, John? Ah, thank you. Yes, I did. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. That was very, very kind. I will post that. I'll read that later once we settle down in here. So what's our rules if, first of all, I don't know why you're looking to short an all-time high, right? But a trap underneath, right? So really we have to look at what has to happen to get bearish, right? So from the 24-hour perspective, you're going to have to get under all of this. From a daytime perspective, you're going to have to get underneath this, right? From 24 hours, excuse me. That's right. From the day perspective, you have to get underneath this 30. You're going to have to get underneath the all-time high, right? Because someone's going to look at a micro-composite volume profile and see a bunch of volume there. You're going to have to get underneath this. And really what you'd want to see is get underneath this and push back up and then reject down, right? And you're going to have to get through this on the daytime frame, right? And as you can see, there's absolutely nothing. It's not going to take but a feather to push it up, right? So this should help calm your mind. Now, if you're mad that you're not long, I don't think you're mad at me. I'm just saying if you're mad you're not long in principle, right? If in principle you are mad that you are not long, right? Go back and examine whether you can identify this trade, right? I pointed out beforehand, but there was no reason you had to wait for me. I've shown this breakout over here numerous times. Right? As a matter of fact, this day did us a favor because it pushed down into the prior HVNs. We didn't even get that this morning. But now you have 2 dates. You can print the June 1st date and the days that preceded it, what that breakout looked like. And you can present, if this trends up, as I suspect we will at this point, You can print this out. You can print the tick characteristics. You can write down what the open looked like. The backside print of the opening print failed to get below. So I'd wonder if that had the similar, we obviously got below the opening print on this particular day, right? If you don't know the variations, just like in sports, right? If you don't know the variations on the play and the audibles, it's hard to play the game. So these are variations on a theme that keeps recurring, right? So you have one example here, you have one example here. Remember, these are going to be themes on breakouts from the highs of the market, breakouts from the bottom third or from the mid. What are they going to do? They're going to run into resistance much easier, and they're going to provide you with upside targets, right? We don't have an upside target here besides using a Fibonacci extension or some mathematical computation. So we know our average range is 10 to 15 points, right? So I would suspect between 24.43 and 24.46, let's say, we're going to run into a consolidation point, right? Why? Because that would put us up 13 to 16 points on the day, and that's about as much as we've been getting. If it turns out to be an exceptional day, which it can be, right, we get up 20. And I hate these days as much as anyone else, right? I'm just learning to get aggressive early in this process when I identified this. And that's why I said last night in the notes and the day before, if we look at, I said above that 37 and consolidating on the old chart. So I'll pull that up. So I think the note was, let me go look, because I know I posted it. I want to make sure what I said was actually correct. So I said consolidation. I said above 24.37 could lead to nice upside extension, right? So we consolidate. So I was a little off because we broke out and just went, right? So what I wanted to see was this into the open, push down, and then a push out like that. So that was the variation on it, was we just consolidated under 38.36, right? And then pushed, right? But you can learn how to do just that. You can learn how to do just that, and read that chart. Oops, that's not what it is. You can learn to read this chart, and I can stop this. I got enough.